Okay, so like imagine talking to an AI and it, actually remembers like everything you've said.
Like the whole conversation, not just, keywords.
Yeah, the whole thing, all that history. That's Letta, and it's a game
It's a
changer.
game
I
changer.
think so, yeah. We used to know it as MemGPT,
Oh, right. MemGPT.
but it's been rebranded.
Mm.
I think that tells us something about, where this is all going.
Yeah, rebranding is always interesting. So are we diving deep into Letta today?
Absolutely. We're going to figure out like what makes Letta tick and why anybody should, even care about it.
Sounds good.
We've got Letta's GitHub repo, the official website,
Oh, nice.
and some notes on that name change.
Okay, so we're going to go through all that stuff.
We are. We're going to unpack how it works at the core, how it's being used out there in the real world, and even, how you could use it yourself.
So like a beginner's guide to Letta.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
And trust me, this is all moving
This
fast.
is the world of AI.
Yeah. So we'll definitely try to take a peek at what the future, might hold.
Okay, sounds exciting.
So first things first, what is Letta exactly?
So Letta is, it's a framework, right, for building what they call stateful LLM applications.
Stateful LLM applications.
Yeah, okay.
And I know it sounds kind of, complicated, but think of it like this. It's a set of tools, right, that that lets you build AI that actually remembers stuff.
AI that remembers. Okay, I like that.
Right, because most of the AI we see today is like, it's what we call stateless. It forgets like every interaction as soon as it's over.
Oh, so like those chatbots that ask you for your order number every single time you need help.
Exactly. That's the perfect example.
Healthcare.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But a stateful agent,
Yeah.
one that you build with Letta, that can remember those past conversations, what you talked about before.
Okay, so that makes the AI much smarter.
Way smarter and a lot more helpful.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
And I noticed that Letta is described as, being white box
Uh-huh.
and model agnostic. Can you break down what those terms mean?
Sure. So white box, that basically means you can see how Letta's working. Like under the hood, how it's making decisions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that's that's really important, especially when we're talking about AI that remembers things.
For trust.
Yeah, for trust, for transparency, making sure everything's on the up and up.
Right, right.
And then model agnostic, that means you're not like stuck with just one AI provider. You're not stuck with like one specific technology.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you can use Letta with a whole bunch of different large language models, even open source ones,
Which can be cheaper.
way cheaper, which is, good for a lot of people. It gives you a lot of flexibility.
Flexibility is always good.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But how does all this actually work? Like, can we take a look at Letta's architecture?
Of course. So the secret sauce is how Letta stores and retrieves information. It uses a database.
Oh, okay.
Right. Think of it as like a giant, massive memory bank.
Yep.
And every time the AI, interacts with someone, the important stuff, the important information, it gets saved in that database.
Oh, I see.
And then when the user comes back, Letta pulls up all those memories, right?
Yeah.
So the AI can just pick up where it left off.
Uh-huh.
And then it gives like truly personalized responses.
Okay.
It's all about keeping that, that conversational history, going.
So it's like building an actual relationship with the AI over time.
That's that's a great way to put it.
But how do developers, how do they actually get in there and start building things with Letta? Like, where do they even start?
Well, they've got what's called a REST API.
A REST API.
Yeah, it's basically a way for developers to, to talk to Letta,
Oh, okay.
to create those stateful agents to manage their memory and to connect them into different applications. It's, it's kind of the key to unlocking Letta's potential if you're a developer.
Got it. And I see there's also something called the Agent Development Environment, or ADE.
Yes. That's like a visual tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes it building and managing those AI agents, much easier. Much easier. You don't even need to be a coding expert to use it.
So even someone like without a ton of technical experience could create their own AI agents.
Exactly. It's designed to be really user friendly, so you can define like the agent's personality, its goals, how its memory works, all that stuff.
Wow.
And you don't have to write a single line of code.
That's amazing. And since Letta is model agnostic,
Mhm.
can you connect the ADE to all sorts of different LLM providers.
Absolutely. You can try out different, different AI models, see what works best,
Yeah.
including those open source ones, the cheaper ones.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage, especially for smaller companies or for developers who are working, on a tighter budget.
Yeah, for sure. And then, for people who like to work with text, if you're more comfortable with that kind of interface, they also have what's called a CLI option.
CLI option.
Yeah, that's a command line tool. Some developers just, they find it more efficient. They like the control it gives them.
Oh, interesting. So Letta really caters to like all sorts of different working styles. It's great that, that there are options.
Yeah, options are always good.
But understanding how it works is one thing. What I'm really excited about is like what we can actually do with it. Like where are we seeing, the impact of Letta out there in the world?
That's where it gets really, really interesting. Letta has so many potential applications across, a whole bunch of industries. Let's start with customer service. How about that?
Yes. I mean, I can just imagine how transformative it would be to have like chatbots that remember, past interactions. Like how would that actually work?
Right. Like you don't have to repeat your issue every single time you need help? So imagine like you're running a really busy e-commerce company
Right.
and you've got, tons of customer inquiries coming in every day.
Mm-hmm.
Letta can help you build a chatbot that remembers each customer's, purchase history,
Right.
their preferences, even their past interactions with the support team.
So instead of having to like repeat their order number and explain their issue every time, the chatbot just like already has all that context.
Exactly. It's like having, a dedicated customer service rep for each individual customer
Yeah.
leads to faster resolution times,
Oh, wow.
happier customers, and ultimately a much more efficient operation.
Makes a lot of sense. And it would free up your human agents to deal with, with more complex issues.
Mhm.
What about other industries? Like where else are we seeing Letta make a difference?
Okay, well, let's look at healthcare. Imagine like a virtual nurse
Okay.
powered by Letta.
Okay.
It remembers like your whole medical history, your medications, any allergies you've got, even your doctor's recommendations.
Wow.
Right. It can answer your questions, give you personalized health advice. It can even remind you to take your meds on time.
That's like having a personal health assistant available, 24/7.
Exactly. And it's, it can be really empowering for patients. It gives them more control over their own health.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get a little creative, right? Like say I'm leading like a video game development studio.
Okay. Yeah.
How could we use Letta in that context?
Okay, well, think about, like, those non-player characters, the NPCs, that, they learn and they adapt to how players interact with them. With Letta, you could create NPCs that, remember past conversations.
Okay.
They could change their behavior based on player choices, and they could even develop unique personalities over time.
Oh, wow.
It would make the game world feel so much more immersive and realistic.
Wow. That would take storytelling in video games to like a whole new level.
Right.
It's not just about, following some pre-scripted path. It's like the characters actually react and evolve based on your actions.
Exactly. Creates like a much more dynamic, engaging experience for players. And then from a development perspective, right?
Uh-huh.
You can use Letta to analyze player data.
Okay.
Identify patterns in, player behavior.
Okay.
You can even use it to suggest, new gameplay mechanics based on what players seem to enjoy.
So it can help you like literally create games that are like more fun and more engaging.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears to marketing.
Right. Marketing. Yeah. Imagine you're running a global marketing agency. Okay. Letta can help you create like AI-driven campaigns, that personalize the content and the offers that people get based on their unique journey. Okay. So it's all about, delivering the right message to the right person at the right time.
That's it. So these AI agents can track customer interactions across, your website, across social media, emails, all that stuff.
Okay.
And then they build up this like comprehensive understanding of each customer's like, their needs and preferences.
Oh, wow. That's a gold mine of data, What kind of things can you actually DO with those
Well,
insights?
you can create like really targeted ad campaigns, personalize email messages. You can even offer, dynamic website content that changes based on, on user behavior.
Wow. That's taking personalization to like a whole new level. It's like having an army of AI marketers working for you.
Exactly. And Letta can, it can be applied to so many other, so many other industries,
Right.
from finance to education to transportation. I mean, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Okay. I think I'm starting to really grasp like the power of Letta.
Yeah.
But, you know, with any new technology, there are going to be some limitations, right?
Yeah.
So like what are some things that that Letta is not good at?
Well, it's important to remember that, Letta is a tool.
Okay.
And like any tool, it has its strengths and its weaknesses.
Okay.
One limitation is that, it's still pretty new.
Oh, okay.
Right. So there might be some bugs, you might find some glitches, some unexpected behavior.
Also, like it's still a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The community, they're working on it all the time, trying to improve it, make it better. But it's important to have like realistic expectation.
Right, right. What about other limitations? Anything else we should, kind of be aware of?
Um, Let us, how effective it is really depends on, how good the AI models are that you choose to use with it.
Okay.
So if you use a weak model or, one that's not very well trained,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get great results. It's garbage in, garbage out.
So, it's crucial to pick the right AI model for the job,
Yeah.
right? It's not like, hey, it's not a magic bullet.
Exactly. And even with the best, most advanced models, Letta-powered agents can still make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they can misunderstand instructions. They might generate like a nonsensical response. They can even exhibit biases.
It's a good reminder that these are still machines.
Yeah.
And they're not perfect.
Right. Letta can, it can help us, it can augment our capabilities, but it can't replace, human judgment, human creativity, human empathy.
That's a really important point. It's about using Letta as a tool, right?
Uh-huh.
To enhance what we can do, not to replace us entirely.
Exactly.
But it's clear that Letta is really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Oh, yeah.
So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to like look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
What does the future hold for Letta and for stateful AI in general?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that, the possibilities are so vast and they're evolving so rapidly. It's hard to make any concrete predictions.
But that's what makes it, so exciting.
Right.
We're at the forefront of a whole new, era in AI.
Uh-huh.
And Letta is leading the charge.
It really is. Just imagine how this is gonna, potentially impact how we interact with technology, right?
Yeah.
If AI can remember, can learn, can adapt based on, all those past interactions that we've had with it,
Uh-huh.
our experiences are going to become so much more, personalized, more seamless.
It's like having like a digital assistant that like genuinely knows you,
Right.
understands your needs, anticipates
Yeah.
your next wave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as these AI systems become more and more, integrated into our lives, we really need to think about the implications for society as a whole.
So what are some of the key, societal implications we should be kind of considering here?
Well, one of the biggest ones is, is this going to lead to more, human-like AI, or is this going to create something, something completely different?
If AI can remember, can learn, can adapt,
Yeah.
is the line between, artificial intelligence and human intelligence, is that starting to blur?
Yeah, that's a really profound question, and honestly, I don't think anyone has a definitive answer just yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a question worth pondering as we go further into this this kind of uncharted territory.
Definitely is. And on that thought-provoking note,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay. Sounds good.
We'll pick up the conversation in part 2.
Yes.
We'll go deeper into some specific use cases for Letta across different industries.
I look forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into Letta.
Last time we got into all the technical stuff, like, how Letta actually works.
On nuts and bolts.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm kind of curious about, real world applications. Like, how are people actually using Letta out there?
Right, right.
Can you walk us through some, some concrete examples?
Absolutely. One of the most promising areas is customer service. Imagine like you're running a busy e-commerce company, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You've got, tons of customer inquiries coming in every day.
Uh,
Letta can help you create like a chatbot
okay.
that remembers, each customer's purchase history, their preferences, even their past support interactions.
So instead of having to, repeat their order number and explain their issue every single time, the chatbot just like already has all that context.
Exactly. It's like having, a dedicated customer service rep for each individual customer.
Wow.
And that leads to, faster resolution times,
Okay.
happier customers, and, ultimately a more efficient operation.
That makes a lot of sense. And it frees up, your human agents to deal with, with the more complex issues. What about other industries?
Sure.
Where else are we seeing Letta, make an impact?
Okay. Well, let's look at healthcare. Imagine like a virtual nurse
Wait.
powered by Letta. It remembers your entire medical history.
Wow.
All your medications, allergies, even your doctor's recommendations. It can answer your questions, give you like personalized health advice. It can even, remind you to take your meds on time.
That's like having a personal health assistant, available 24/7.
Exactly. And it can be, incredibly empowering for patients, gives them more control over, over their own health.
Okay, let's get creative. Like,
Yeah.
say I'm leading a video game development studio.
Okay, yeah.
How could we use Letta in that context?
Well, think about those non-player characters, the NPCs. They learn and they adapt to how players interact with them. With Letta, you could create NPCs that remember, past conversations.
Okay.
They could change their behavior based on, player choices.
Right.
And they could even like develop unique personalities over time.
Oh, wow.
It would make, the game world feel so much more immersive, so much more, realistic.
Wow. That would take storytelling in video games to like a whole new level.
Right.
It's not just about, following some pre-scripted path anymore. It's like the characters actually, react and evolve based on your, on your actions.
Exactly. It creates a much more dynamic, engaging experience for players. And then, from a development perspective, you can use Letta to analyze player data,
Okay.
identify patterns and, player behavior. You can even use it to suggest new gameplay mechanics based on, what players seem to enjoy.
So it can literally help you create games that are more fun and more engaging.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears to marketing.
Okay, marketing, yeah.
Imagine you're running like a global marketing agency, right? Letta can help you create AI-driven campaigns that personalize content and offers based on each customer's, unique journey.
So it's all about delivering the right message to the right person at the right time.
That's it. So these AI agents, they can track customer interactions across your website, social media, emails.
Oh, okay.
They build up this really comprehensive understanding of each customer's needs and preferences.
That's a gold mine of data. What
Well-
kind of things can you do with those insights?
You can create highly targeted ad campaigns, personalize email messages, even offer dynamic website content that changes based on, user behavior.
Wow. That's taking personalization to a whole new level.
Yeah.
It's like having an army of AI marketers working for you.
Exactly. And Letta can be applied to, so many other industries, finance, education, transportation. The possibilities are, pretty much endless.
Okay. I think I'm starting to really grasp, the power of Letta. But, with any new technology, there are going to be some limitations, right? What are some things Letta is not good at?
Well, it's important to remember that Letta is a tool. And like any tool, it has its strengths and weaknesses. One limitation is that, it's still relatively new. There might be some bugs, some glitches, some unexpected behavior.
Oh, so like it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, for sure. The community is, actively working to improve Letta, but it's important to have like realistic expectations.
Right. What about other limitations? Anything else we should be aware of?
Letta's effectiveness, it really depends on the quality of the AI models you choose to use with it. So if you use, a weak model, one that's not very well trained,
Yeah.
you're not going to get great results. It's garbage in, garbage out.
So it's crucial to pick the right AI model for the job. It's not a magic bullet.
Exactly. And even with the most advanced models, Letta-powered agents can still make mistakes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, they can misunderstand instructions, they might generate, a nonsensical response, or they could even exhibit biases.
It's a good reminder that these are still machines, and they're not perfect.
Right. Letta can, it can augment human capabilities, but it can't replace human judgment, creativity, empathy,
Okay.
you know.
That's a really important point. It's about using Letta as a tool, right?
Uh-huh.
To enhance what we can do, not to replace us entirely.
Exactly.
But it's clear that Letta is really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Oh, yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to look at the bigger picture.
Okay, yeah.
What does the future hold for Letta and for stateful AI in general?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And, the possibilities are so vast and they're evolving so rapidly, it's hard to make concrete predictions.
But that's what makes it so exciting.
Right.
We're at the forefront of a whole new era in AI,
Mhm.
and Letta is leading the charge.
It really is. Just imagine, how this could potentially impact how we interact with technology, right?
Yeah.
If AI can remember, can learn, can adapt based on, all those past interactions we've had with it,
Uh-huh.
our experiences are going to become so much more personalized, more seamless.
It's like having a digital assistant that genuinely knows you,
Right.
understands your needs, anticipates your next move.
Exactly.
Wow.
And as these AI systems become more and more integrated into our lives, we really need to think about the implications for society as a whole.
So what are some of the key societal implications we should be considering?
Well, one of the biggest ones is this going to lead to more human-like AI? Or is it going to create something completely different?
If AI can remember, can learn, can adapt, is the line between artificial intelligence and human intelligence starting to blur?
That's a really profound question, and I don't think anyone has a definitive answer yet,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a question worth pondering as we venture further into this uncharted territory.
It definitely is. And on that thought-provoking note,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap up this part of our deep dive. We'll pick up the conversation in part 3, where we'll delve deeper into some specific use cases for Letta across various industries.
I look forward to it.
Welcome back. We've been looking at Letta.
This AI framework.
Yeah, this AI framework that's like building AI with memory.
Right.
We've seen how it works. We've looked at some really cool use cases, but now I want to look ahead. Like what's next?
What's next for Letta?
Yeah, what's next for Letta? What's the future of AI with memory?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's already, pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible with AI, and the pace of innovation is just incredible. I think we're going to see even more sophisticated applications,
Oh, really?
like things we can barely even, imagine today.
Can you give us some hints? Like what kind of advancements are you most excited about?
Well, one area that's really exciting is personalized AI companions.
Personalized AI companion.
Yeah. So imagine having an AI that knows you better than anyone else, right?
Yeah.
That understands, your needs, your goals, your dreams. It could help you with everything from managing your schedule to making important life decisions.
So like a super intelligent best friend.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow. That sounds amazing. It might be a little bit scary.
Right, but think about the implications for education.
Okay, yeah, for education.
We could see personalized AI tutors
Okay.
that adapt to each student's learning style, their pace. They could provide, individualized instruction,
Wow.
identify areas where a student's struggling and, offer targeted support. It could revolutionize the way we learn.
I can see that being a game changer for students of all ages.
Totally.
What about What about other areas? Where else might we see, like major breakthroughs?
Another area that I think is really, ripe for disruption is healthcare.
Healthcare.
AI with memory could be used to, to develop personalized treatment plans,
Mhm.
to monitor patients remotely, and even, even assist with complex surgery.
Oh, wow.
We could see a future where, where AI is actually helping us to live longer, healthier lives.
That's incredible. It seems like, the possibilities are truly limitless. But with all these advancements, I mean,
Oh.
we have to think about, potential downsides.
Right,
But
right.
are there any, risks associated with creating AI that's this, this intelligent, this capable?
Of course. It's really important to approach this technology, with caution
Right.
and with, a deep understanding of what the potential risks are.
Oh,
One of the biggest concerns is, job displacement.
okay.
As AI gets more sophisticated, it's likely to automate a lot of, tasks that are currently being done by humans.
Right. So we need to be, think about how we can prepare for that shift,
Absolutely.
and make sure that everyone benefits from these advancements. What about other risks?
Sure.
Are there any concerns about AI, becoming too powerful or uncontrollable?
Yeah. That's a valid concern. We need to be really careful about how we design these systems,
Right.
how we deploy them. We need to make sure that they remain aligned with human values
Okay, yeah.
and that we retain control over their actions.
Right.
Transparency, accountability, you know, ethical considerations, all of that needs to be, front and center.
So it's not just about, the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the, the societal implications
Right.
and how we manage, this transition responsibly.
It's a challenge, but it's also, an incredible opportunity. We have the chance to really shape the future of AI
Yeah.
and make sure that, that it benefits, all of humanity.
That's a really powerful message. It's a good reminder that that we're not just like passive observers in this technological revolution.
Right.
We have a responsibility to engage, to ask, the tough questions,
Yeah.
and to work together, to create a future where AI is enhancing our lives
uh
without compromising our values.
I couldn't agree more. The future of AI is ultimately, in our hands.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Letta. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration,
Yeah.
and that it's given you, a glimpse into the incredible possibilities and the challenges, of AI with memory. Remember, the future is not something that happens to us. It's something that we create.
Thanks for joining us.